Keith and AJ decide to join a prestigious fraternity. To impress the fraternity's members, they come up with an unusual way to throw a party with a professional dancer. To do this, they need to find an attractive stripper. However, they're short on cash, so they arrange to borrow a car from a wealthy but pushy classmate named Duncan. He agrees, but only on the condition that he drives with them. The trio head to a neighboring town to find a suitable club. Their journey leads them to an old, dilapidated neighborhood with an oppressive atmosphere. Stopping at a strange cafe, they try to find the right address. The locals act suspiciously, and everything around them seems abandoned. Soon, they find a sign for a nightclub called After Dark, which is where they head. Inside, a dark, mysterious atmosphere reigns, dim lighting, red spotlights, and a dubious-looking crowd. Dancers perform on stage, but one particular act captures everyone's attention. A performer named Katrina takes the stage. Her number turns out to be more than just a dance, but a strange ritual, the movements almost hypnotic. AJ is captivated by her and, after the performance, decides to approach her personally to invite her to a student party. Meanwhile, Keith remains at a table with Duncan and a waitress named Amaretto, who for some reason acts as if she's known him for a long time. AJ goes backstage and finds herself in Katrina's dressing room. The room looks like a dreamscape, darkness, heavy curtains, and a waterbed filled with red liquid. As he approaches, the girl suddenly attacks him. She reveals herself to be a vampire and attacks AJ. He doesn't have time to escape. Meanwhile, Keith waits for him to return, but he doesn't show up. He goes looking for his friend, but finds neither him nor any trace of him. Amaretto offers to help, and together they explore the club's nooks and crannies. Keith gradually begins to realize that something is wrong with the place. The patrons are behaving strangely, and the city around them seems deserted. When he steps outside, he is attacked by a group of aggressive albino members of the street gang that controls the area. He manages to hide in a dumpster, where he unexpectedly discovers AJ's body. Keith, shocked, calls the police, but upon returning to the club, encounters AJ, still alive. However, his friend has already changed. He's become a vampire. Realizing he's doomed, AJ refuses to attack Keith and decides to commit suicide to avoid harm. He uses a piece of broken furniture and stabs himself in the chest, but it turns out the material isn't real, it's plastic instead of wood, and the attempt is ineffective. Keith escapes the club with Amaretto and Duncan. They get into a car, but are pursued by vampires. During the chase, the vampires' vehicle collides with their car. In the confusion, Keith and Amaretto escape, but Duncan begins to show signs of transformation. Realizing he's infected, they leave him in the car. Moments later, the car explodes. Realizing that the entire city is now overrun with vampires, Keith and Amaretto search for an escape route through the underground tunnels. Along the way, Amaretto reveals her real name is Allison and that they've known each other since childhood. She went to the same school with him. Keith barely remembers this. They make their way through the sewers, where they find a vampire lair. To prevent them from rising, Keith sets fire to the tunnel, and the flames spread, destroying the nest. But Katrina appears ahead. She captures Allison and holds her captive, trying to force Keith to surrender. Keith tries to use everything he can get his hands on: a crossbow, pipes, and scrap metal. However, Katrina doesn't die from ordinary wounds. Then Keith resorts to a ruse. He fires an arrow at the grate, letting in sunlight. The beam falls on Katrina, and the light obliterates her, turning her body to ash. Allison is freed. They climb to the exit, but right in front of them appears another vampire, Vlad, who was Katrina's consort, and also lives in the dungeon. He almost attacks them, but is suddenly struck from behind. It's AJ returning, who, despite his transformation, helps his friends. AJ uses the same stake that failed earlier, and this time impales Vlad. It turns out to be decorative plastic, but the blow is powerful enough to incapacitate him. Vlad dies. When the sun finally rises, Keith and Allison emerge outside. They watch as the morning light illuminates the city streets, destroying the last traces of the vampires. AJ remains below, knowing he can no longer live among humans. He jokes that he might take a night job or attend night school to stay close to his friend. Keith and Allison climbed the stairs out of the sewer, watching the sunrise.